You're listening to The Financial Outfitter, helping turn dreams into cherished memories. Sponsored by BPG Planning, purpose-based personal financial planning because it's about more than your money.
Welcome to another episode of the Financial Outfitter podcast. Thanks for taking some of your precious time and spending it with us today. This is the show that believes that the sporting lifestyle and the pursuit of it holds the remedies to what ails the human spirit in a modern world. We hope to share with you content, resources, material that inspire you to turn your sporting dreams into reality. Today we are in the den. Our guest is retired Marine Corps Major Eric Burkett. Hey, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you are a man in demand. Well,
thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here.
And thanks for the, your jersey actually. And we'll take a closer look at that later. We'll get some footage of that. And I don't actually remember exactly when we met, but I do know that, we have shared a friendship as a result of our shared passion for archery. And I'm fairly certain it was when I realized that I needed a lot of help after bow hunting for, 40 years. I realized I need some serious help because I was going on a trip. And, over the years, I'd been into many pro shops, people, quote unquote, helping me. And I realized that after, spending a handful of hours with you, that I'd learned more in that period of time than I did in all those pro shop visits. I feel like I owe a debt of gratitude to you. My archery career and what I've been doing and what I'm able to do is like a totally different world. I grew up with a bow, but that wasn't the case for you, right? So how did you find archery or archery find you?
So archery found me. I was walking our family farm when I was 19 years old, so it would have been early 90s. And I would carry a rifle and kick people off the property that were bow hunting. And that was my thing. And one day I came across a gentleman who just so happened to own an archery shop. And as we were walking off the property, he said, "Hey, if you ever decide to get into archery, stop by my shop. I'd love to take care of you." And I did. I took him up on it. And that was right up here at Acorn Archery 30 some years ago. And I didn't think it would be a big part of my life like it is now, but that was the beginning of it. Once I shot my first arrow, I fell in love, and the rest is a great history.
Yeah. So a lot of people take up bow hunting and go bow hunting or shoot a bow, but you've taken it to a significantly different level. So how did that evolve for you that you knew that you wanted to keep progressing like that?
I didn't. That's the truth of it. So I used to shoot a lot. I went to some tournaments. This is early on. This is before I left for the Marine Corps. And I enjoyed it. But more than that, I enjoyed just being behind my bow and practicing. It didn't have to be a tournament. Didn't have to be hunting. I just liked shooting my bow. It was a very calm place. But it was also a place that I could explore abilities and, get in touch with, the biomechanics of life. Kind of, it sounds corny, but I would do a lot of thinking behind the bow. And then I, went off to the Marine Corps, and initially during the initial training, I put it down. I didn't have time for it. Obviously there was just fast and furious. But by the time I got to flight school, and I was actually in the program, and I realized that I need a place to decompress. I need someplace where I can just kind of clear my head. And I was like, I need to go home. So on the next opportunity to take leave, I came back up home here to Pennsylvania and grabbed my bow and took it back down to Pensacola and just set up in the backyard. And I would shoot maybe 20 minutes, half hour, just to kind of clear my head, think about something completely other than flying and flight school and all the challenges that come with it. And then put it away for a little while. Went on my first deployment, came back, and I needed the same kind of a thing, a place to just decompress. And I ended up buying a new bow at that point and shooting at the range there at Camp Lejeune. And it was the same kind of thing. So, post deployment, come home, shoot. It was a great place really to just kind of unload and unpack a lot of gear, do a lot of thinking, even if I'm not consciously thinking about it. But when I would leave the range, I was always in a better place mentally. I think my wife and my kids would definitely agree with that. And then in 2012, I was in an exercise in Africa, and the plane crashed, and I ended up losing my legs. While I was at Walter Reed, this is over a 4-year period. But early on at Walter Reed, I was told by the command that part of my rehabilitation was going to be participation in adaptive sports. And I asked them, I said, is archery a thing? And they're like, oh, yeah, it's a thing. It was actually the first sport introduced at Stoke Mandeville for the first Paralympics. And so I was like, okay. So as soon as I was able to get out of the hospital for any length of time and actually leave the hospital grounds, I went to an archery range and started shooting. And then I outgrew that program and started working with a coach out in town, which again, super therapeutic, but it also was a segue into like life after the Marine Corps. Cause I'm, dealing with all the stuff going on, the self-image with my legs and just reintegrating back into society from the Marine Corps. And it's all happening at the same time. And then I was asked, hey, do you want to go to a tournament? And I said, sure. I went and I won it. And then, wow, you did great. Go to another one? Yeah, sure. And I won that one. And then I got invited to go to Invictus Games, the first one in London. And I came home a gold medalist from there. And shortly thereafter, the head coach of USA Archery for the para athletes asked me if I wanted to join the team in Argentina for the Pan American Championships, and I came in 4th down there.
And what year was that?
2014 and 15.
Wow. So therapeutic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And to be honest with you, again, I spent many years hunting with a bow, but it wasn't until you and I started working together and I started putting a lot of arrows down range where I would say I began to sense that. Like I would want to go shoot my bow. I actually find myself craving it. Like I would be unhappy if I didn't get my, people call it reps, but it's the mental rep. And I think that, obviously before we came in here, we were just talking about the ability to expand the sport. And I think that's an aspect of it that may be overlooked sometimes.
Right. I think it's not even put out there.
Yeah.
Most of the time, especially here in Western Pennsylvania, you think archery hunting. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's at. In fact, I didn't have any idea about being a member of the U.S. Archery Team or how to get there or any of that stuff until post-accident. And it was being put in touch with people who are inside the USA Sports umbrella and were looking for para athletes, disabled athletes. Yeah, I mean, if I hadn't been hurt, I could almost guarantee you that I would not be, into archery the way I am today. So, and an advocate for the sport. But it's
so what happened after that trip to South America? Like you're on the team full time, yes?
Nope. No. So I was kind of weird. So I was invited to the team, but I hadn't earned my place as an official member of the USA Archery Team. So that's kind of one of the nuances to it that I didn't understand early on as well. So every year they take the top 8 athletes that have met all the criteria. There's a minimum qualifying score, and there's also so many tournaments that you have to attend. Some are mandatory. And then basically they take your single arrow average from your top 3 events and determine whether or not you're in those top 8. And then, it's sequentially put in place. And that's how the U.S. team is established. So for me to go to Argentina was kind of an anomaly. And I think Coach Smith wanted me to, further get the hook set into me with archery. And it did. I fell in love right then. I was like, man, I want to do this. But when there's an Olympic or Paralympic event or like World Championships, all those trials, the process of determining the team that's actually going to those events, there's a trials process. And in the beginning, anybody can show up. It's open to everybody. You got to be a member of USA Archery and meet some minimum requirements. But a guy can just literally come in off the street and participate in the first stage of trials. And then after that, it gets narrowed down and gets bracketed and points are awarded. And then eventually the team is determined. But initially, anybody can show up and do it. But for me to be asked to go to Argentina was not normal.
So then you had to reset basically and go back and qualify just like every single other person.
Right. So the question then was like, hey, Coach Smith, how do I do this again?
Right.
And it's, well, you've got to do this and this and this and this and this and then make the team. And I've been on the team off and on. There's been years that I haven't made the team. In the middle, I wasn't there for the 2017 team. And then I was actually sanctioned by the U.S. Anti-Doping Administration for the 2021 season. So yeah, I was taking testosterone replacement therapy, and it's considered an anabolic steroid. And yeah, so I popped positive on a urinalysis at U.S. Nationals, and went through a whole adjudication process and got lawyers involved. And but now I'm back on the team again and thrashing it. So
well, yeah, you had an amazing year.
yeah,
so
so
what
best
is
year ever?
Yeah. So what is is it a calendar year? Because what you did is, well, I think unprecedented, right?
I think so too. I haven't been able to go back and actually check it, but I don't think there have been, I'm pretty sure there hasn't been an athlete inside USA Archery that's been in the top 3 in 2 different divisions ever.
Yeah. So
until now.
Until now. That's right. So you're shooting does that mean you're shooting double the amount?
No, it just means I'm eligible to be in 2 different divisions. I'm shooting the same amount.
Okay.
Unfortunately, and it might have worked to my advantage. I could have been even higher, but sometimes the opportunity isn't there the way they schedule it. So I need to be on the line shooting as a para athlete at the same time that the masters are on the line shooting. If they're scheduled for a different time, then my score as a para athlete can't go towards the score towards masters, because by USA and World Archery rules, I have to be shooting at the same time that everybody else is.
Well, because you're shooting outside. For those people that don't know, it's so the elements could be a factor.
100%.
And that I could see why they would want you shooting at the same time.
Right. And you got to think of this sport, the outdoor target archery, as a endurance event. People don't think of archery as an endurance event.
No.
But when you're shooting for 3.5 hours, and last year U.S. Nationals was in Lubbock, Texas, and it was brutal. It was hot. It was very windy. I mean, you just couldn't drink enough water. You'd finish up, and all you'd want to do is sit down and cool off and drink water. And then throw some crazy wind in there, and like watching the Dust Devils go down the archery range while you're shooting. I mean, it's challenging. So yeah, that plays in a huge factor.
So anyone that's done any amount of shooting, like for me, 50 arrows is a like that's a big day for me. Now, there are probably lots of people that shoot a lot more than that, but historically 50 arrows would be a lot of arrows.
Sure. And I think you'd be surprised. There aren't that many people that shoot, 100 arrow days.
But you're shooting how many in a competition, and then what's the training look like to get ready for that competition? Or don't you want to share that?
No. It's no secret. So the coach that I'm working with now, he'll tell you that we want to shoot twice as many arrows in practice that we do at a tournament, and that's for that endurance level because of the duration that we're shooting. So it's a 72 arrow event. You shoot 12 ends of 6 arrows each, and it's usually broken up. There's another line of archers that comes up and shoots before everybody goes down to pools. So you have 4 minutes to shoot those 6 arrows, regardless of weather conditions. Unless there's lightning and then they close the field. But wind, rain, I haven't had it, but snow, doesn't matter. As long as there's not a safety concern, we're shooting. And it can be brutal. I mean, it really can. Lubbock was brutal. Indianapolis, Nationals at Indianapolis a few years back was brutal, where you're literally holding off the target and watching your arrow hook back, into the target face for points. I mean, and it's, you're just trying to make the best shots that you can with the expectation is, if I do shoot a 10, woohoo.
Yeah.
That's huge. But, to answer your question, I can't remember your question.
Well, it was, okay, how many arrows are you shooting to prepare?
Okay, so 72 arrows to shoot to the tournament, but you'll have a couple in practice ends called official practice, and you can shoot as many arrows as you want during those 3-4 minute periods. So, you figure you're somewhere in the 90s for a tournament. And that's if you're just shooting that one line that day. Some tournaments, it's not a USAT, but it usually be like a regional event. It's called a star FIDA. They might shoot 144 arrows for score. So, you're looking at 170 to 200 arrows a day. But, building up to that, you want to be able to shoot. I'd like to shoot between 200 and 250 arrows in a session. And it's a dedicated chunk of time.
Yeah, that's a long time to shoot that many arrows. And,
there's not a lot of facilities that accommodate that. And then just the logistics of walking back and forth, or in my case, jumping on the power chair, running back and forth. It eats up a lot of time, but it's what you got to do.
And that's, most people might be thinking about the physical endurance to shoot that many arrows, but you have there's some mental endurance there. I mean, I shoot a handful of arrows, and I'm all of a sudden I send one into the dirt.
Right. That's the challenge of it. Seriously. You can be physically fit. You can, have all these, physical concepts, but if you can't control your mind, the chances that you're going to win or, start getting reduced dramatically, especially coming into those, 10th end, 11th end, 12th end, where there's a part of you that just wants to get out of the sun, get in the car, go back to the hotel, eat something. So, you're planning your physical time on the line with water and snacks. Guys that don't leave the line like myself will have an umbrella, so we're not baking in the sun. But how do I control and keep my mind fresh and sharp? And there's different strategies, and there's a ton of books out there. I love the book. It's called "Don't Leave Your Mind Behind" by Nicole Detling, and it just talks about strategies of how to focus on a single event. And you and I have talked about it. For that 3 to 5 seconds that it takes to get the shot off. But you can't stay focused there the whole time. You start crippling up. Your shot breaks down. You daydream. You can be looking at the target but not see the target. There's 1,000 things that happen. So there's got to be some triggers, and just like you can, condition your body to do a certain thing, you got to condition your mind to be able to go from relaxed and kind of like in a chill out mode where you're just receiving information and being in the moment. And then I got to focus this thing down, and, nothing else matters right now but driving this arrow into the center of that target. So and then right back out.
Yeah. So that, for me, this thing that jumps into my mind is, I shoot, and I'm sure I would think a lot of bow hunters could relate to this. You shoot, you practice. And then all of a sudden that moment of truth comes, and it's sometimes after you've made the shot, you're like, I don't even remember what happened. Because there's just this, there's an adrenaline rush. You're trying to manage the situation. Things are moving. Everything's happening very quickly. That's not an easy thing to do. So have you found that mental discipline that you've had to build is transferable to a hunting situation?
Yeah, I would say it's transferable to way more than just hunting. Because there are times that, there's high pressure situations that, require you to focus. Excuse me. And the big thing I like to think about is preparing mentally. When I'm sitting in a tree stand, some of the things that I do instead of just, pick my nose and watch the birds fly by is, all right, if a deer came in from here, what would I do? If a deer came in from here, what would I do? Let's expect the big buck that I've seen on the trail camera comes in. What do I do? The big bull that I shot, the first bull that I shot, bull elk. I saw him, and he was a ways out, and he was monkeying around, and I started building my what do I do? So it became very meticulous. As he came in, there were like these little mental check marks that I was making. Okay, all right, he's come through my 40. He's still coming. I'm going to let him come. All right, he's at 30. Okay, he's walking right at me now. All right, now I'm in a little bit of a pickle. I need him to turn one way or the other, But one of the things that I was also decided before he started even coming in was, I can look at his rack later. Mm-hmm. I can celebrate later. I've got work to do right now. Mm-hmm. And just put myself into this business mindset of like, aim small, miss small. Where am I going to aim? Visualizing, okay, he's coming at me. Where do I want to put my pin? Here he is. He's walking right at me. If he turns left, where do I want to put my pin? Am I willing to take on a straight on shot? Am I willing to take on a quartered two shot? All these factors. And then, okay, if I do, what is he going to give me? And then it's like, all right, you kind of have a split decision or a split second decision to make. All right, he's given me an opportunity. I'm going to take it. And then now, where's my focus going to be? And it's not just an optical focus, but it's also a mental focus. I'm focusing through the animal, and I'm trying to figure out where his heart is. So when I release that arrow, it has the best opportunity it can to have the most lethal of a shot, and that's, blowing his heart out. Mm-hmm. So again, it goes back to, I can celebrate later. And then those down times, what am I doing? What am I going to do differently? When I'm sitting there on the line waiting for my turn to shoot at a archery tournament, I'm watching the wind. I'm watching how other arrows are reacting, other shooters. They're people that I know are good shooters. And if I notice, hey, wow, they're really, if they miss, they're missing to the left. Okay, that wind must really be driving left. So I need to, so again, it's all about preparing for the shot before you take it. And that includes the mental side of things, whether it's an animal, whether it's shooting for gold at one of the big tournaments.
I think the mental aspect of it might be more challenging than the physical aspect of it.
I agree. The U.S. sports is trying to catch up, but we don't do a very good job of building the mental game. Usually we don't start working mental game until you start getting to a more advanced level of your sport. We don't teach mental game in high school very well. No, if at all. Right. And in college, maybe start getting introduced to it. If you're, in one, a more dominant sport, that has a lot more resources as far as experts to bring in. But
I think just in general, we underestimate the value of a coach that can bring that element to it. And I look at it from my perspective as, in my professional life, I've been a financial advisor for many years, was a financial advisor for many years and finally made the commitment to actually get a coach, not to show me what to do, but help me with how I should think or things that I can do mentally to improve my game. And things became better. And you've recently, is it recently got into coaching? Because now you've taken the sport and now you're coaching.
No, actually, I started getting into coaching while I was at Walter Reed.
Oh, okay.
And, I found it was crazy therapeutic for me, and just to get away from the hospital, to focus on something other than my injuries. So I used my rank, and I would go back to the barracks or the apartment building that we lived in, and I'd be like, hey, what are you doing this afternoon, Marine? I'm going to go pick my nose and play Call of Duty. Okay, well, meet me in the lobby here at 1300. We're going to go to the archery range. I don't do that, sir. Okay, great. I didn't ask you if you did it or not. I said, you meet me here. We're going to the archery range. And seriously, overwhelming. I would say easily in the 90 percentile of the Marines and soldiers that I took to the range instantly took to it. And it wasn't because they were great archers, but it was that therapeutic effect that came to it. And as I recognized this, I said, you know what, I need to be better qualified and better understand how to coach. If I'm going to be a part of this person's life, I'm not just going to, drop them off and, hey, how do I get better?
Yeah.
Well, I could kind of talk out of like my history, my experience, which is okay. But I said, USA Archery has a program that actually develops coaches. And I took my level 1, and then I took my level 2, and then I went to Salt Lake and studied and took my level 3 exam. And then there was a time requirement, a 3-year period between 3 and 4. And that same coach, Coach Smith, actually got me a dispensation to take it early. So I went out to the Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista, California, and took my level 4. And you talk about brutal. Yeah, I had to teach the head coach of USA Archery how to shoot a bow. Yeah. And he was brutal. I've had a lot of tough briefs, and he was one of them. I'm talking like Marine Corps briefs where we're going, into hostile areas. And, it meant a lot to me to get my level 4.
Yeah.
And it was worth it to me. But I mean, there were, people, I watched them walk out of the room crying. I mean, he was brutal. And, but again, it was this desire to have tools and some level of validated expertise to help other people. And that's, that's why I volunteer at Newcastle Christian Academy. I coach for the Marine Corps Wounded Warrior Team. I've actually coached the DoD team when they went to Sydney, Australia. But it's a way to give back, especially for the quote wounded warriors, unquote. Because it's more than just poking holes in paper with a stick. It's a very cerebral, relaxing thing. And you talk about guys with different issues with post-traumatic stress or just anxiety or identity issues with who they are because of what they look like now or what they can do or can't do now. This is kind of like a way to shatter that and break through it and to just bring a guy back from the edge. And what's great about it on the military side of things is, this is already precision shooting is what we do already. Now we're just going to tone it down a little bit. We're going to take away the loud noise, and we're going to try to be the best we can. We're going to use some of those fundamentals of precision marksmanship and turn it into put a bow in your hand.
So we're recording this coming up on the end of 2024. So what's next? Is it more coaching? Is it more competition? Is it both?
It's definitely going to be both. So last year, this year ending up, it was a Paralympic year. Didn't make the team, but now I've got 4 years to focus on 2028 in Los Angeles. So this is like, to most people, it's a rebuild year. I'd like to call it a continuation year. I'm happy with where I'm at. I've learned some things that haven't really quite integrated into my shot yet, that I plan to. But until till I age out, because my body can't hold up, or I'm the undisputed heavyweight champion of archery. We still got work to do.
Yeah.
So, and then again, along the way, who can I help? And I'll tell you, there's guys on the U.S. team. In fact, Doug Godfrey, who right now is ranked #1 in para, I was his coach.
How about that?
Yeah. And I think it's terrific. I've helped a lot of guys like that. I tell them, I hope you come back and beat me. I hope I'm that good of a coach that you come back and beat me.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my heart of hearts, probably not so much. But, but that's the intent. When I coach somebody, I try not to hold back. I try to coach to that person so that they understand it, they can incorporate it so it makes sense to them. And then they can use it. And then also at the same time, I don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Go talk to another coach. Go talk to a whole bunch of other coaches. Go talk to other archers, and put it all together and come back with a package and beat me. Let's do it. So,
well, you mentioned just kind of in passing, coaching the kids. And I think that based on everything that we just talked about, the benefits of that go way beyond punching a hole in paper. Because as we spoke just maybe briefly before we walked in here, you don't have to be a gold medal athlete to start shooting a bow. You don't have to have any kind of background in marksmanship. All those things help, but anyone can get started.
Anyone.
And
you don't have to jump. You don't have to run.
Yeah.
Let's just put a bow in your hand. Let's go.
So share a little bit about what that program is.
The Newcastle Christian Academy. It's the National Archery in the Schools program. It's nationwide. It's broken down by states. There's a state championship that teams and individuals earn their way to, but it's an after school program that teaches kids the fundamentals of archery, and then through different competitions they test proficiency. But especially the Newcastle Christian Academy, which has kind of a neat demographic, because there's kids from all over the spectrum. It's more than just teaching them how to shoot a bow and hit the middle of the target. It's about self-discipline. It's about physical control, mental control, being able to repeat a process over and over and over again. But the challenge is also to have fun. It broke my heart the other Tuesday night when a young girl said, "I don't want to be here. My parents are forcing me to be here." And it just right then, I just said, "Okay, well, this has got to be more than just archery then. If she wants to be here, this has got to be more than just archery. How do I make it more than just archery?
Mm-hmm.
Archery's not your jam, okay, but you got to be here anyway. Well, let's figure out a way to make why you're here fun."
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the new challenge with that young lady. But it's neat when suddenly a kid figures out, "Hey, I can do this."
Mm-hmm.
And then a little bit later, maybe that same year or a subsequent year, it's like, "I can do this well." And then, by like the second, sometimes going to third year, it's like, I've got a really good chance to make the podium. So we talk about, mindset, and that, while we're shooting and practicing, it's not about us and how well we do, but it's how well we support our teammates, because you can make the states and nationals as a team. Last year, Newcastle Christian Academy did terrific. We were 6th in the state of Pennsylvania. And we left a whole lot of points on the board. And the other coach and I, Coach Sam, and I have decided, hey, look, what do we need to do? What do we need to change up? What's the mental game side of things that keeps us having fun, but keeps these kids scoring well and improves their scores. So I mean, that's kind of been the new focus this year, and it's exciting. And there's really some great archery going on, and I can't wait to see how it goes.
You know, I came to one of the shoots, and the one thing that has stuck with me is how many times someone would be on the line, one of these kids would be on the line, and you would go, wiggle your toes.
Yeah.
Like wiggle your toes. And that's just to get them to relax or
wiggle your toes, yeah.
And I just found that, and then if you're really watching the kid, you see them, they're wiggling their toes in their shoes.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about that in practice.
Yeah.
One of the things that I talked to like the Marines about, we joke around RTB. It's a little bit on the crass side, and I can get away with it with the Marines, but it's relax the butthole.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I might have told you this, but like I was a pilot coming into the ship at night, in the helicopter, it's pretty hairy, especially the ship's dark, blacked out, no lights. You're looking at it through goggles. Everything's moving. The ship's going, full steam ahead, and the waves are throwing it around, and the wind's coming around the superstructure. It's just a varsity environment. And new pilot coming into that, he's working really, really hard. And a lot of times they start freezing up, and we end up coming into a high altitude hover off the deck edge, and we just kind of like parallel the ship, and we're not getting any closer to landing. The guy's working so hard that we kind of freeze up. And one of the things that I would do is I would just say, relax your butthole. And they would have this very similar reaction. They would be like, what? Kind of a laugh. The crew chiefs would laugh, but it would just kind of like take them out of it a second, hey, so relax the butthole, land the plane.
Yeah.
That's what so I tell this story to the Marines while we're shooting. We'll be at a tournament like Warrior Games. The Air Force didn't like, RTB. Somebody was wanking about that, or, about saying relax the butthole.
Yeah.
So we changed it to RTB. So now we got guys that'll be yelling it to each other as a way to like, hey, relax. Step back a little bit, relax. If your butthole relaxes, and you giggle a little bit, everything else relaxes, and you can get back to the business at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's putting your mind and your body in the right place to shoot good arrows. And again, part of the mental game. But we want it, and that's important. If you don't want it, it's not important.
Right.
So that we want it, and then we want it so bad, but we lose sight of how to get to our goal because of the goal. The goal gets in the way. So take a step back, wiggle your toes, breathe through the nose, out through the mouth, and let's go to work.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? We're just shooting this one arrow right now in this little moment, and we're just going to put it right in the center of the target. That's it. Don't make it harder than that. Just do it. Wiggle your toes and do it.
So you changing maybe changing course just a little bit. You have been able to harvest a few elk, right?
Yes.
In what? Not this past year, but the year before. Yes.
2 preceding years.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
2 preceding years, right? What's you've done it. Is there something else from a hunting standpoint that you'd really like to be able to do with a bow?
I'd like to, from a hunting standpoint,
Yeah.
I think like a realistic goal, I'd like to harvest a bear with my bow. I really would like to do that. I've been on the hunt for archery bear for 4 years now and have not succeeded. But I mean, looking at your map behind you there's Africa. I mean,
There's Africa.
there's Africa. But any kind of a big game hunt, especially a hunt that like is a little bit more exotic than I can do here in Western PA or within a drive's distance. I mean, I don't have any problem going to Texas or hunting. What's that big near White Sands, New Mexico? The big
Oryx or the
oryx,
yeah.
big oryx down there. I mean, any of that stuff. The thing is, I like to hunt. I like to be outside first. Number two, I like to hunt. And if I get my choice, man, it's going to be an archery hunt.
Yeah.
But if I can't do any of those things other than be outside and enjoy it, I mean, I'll sit there and I'd watch those orcs with binoculars. You know, I'd go on a hunt with one of my kids or one of my buddies, you know, and just be there to support, you know, hey, let's do it. I'll hold a camera. I mean, I'd like to be outside. I like to be out there. I like to be a part of it. You know, there's certainly a very visceral part of archery hunting that I don't get from rifle hunting. There's, you know, archery hunting, as you know, is personal.
Yeah, it's intimate.
So
yeah,
intimate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you really got to get an animal in close. You have to know your limitations. You know, the margins of error are usually much smaller than with a rifle. You have to know your equipment and your capabilities, and even then, you know, archery is not 100%, not even close.
You know, speaking of equipment, you know, I have never been a real big techie person. I don't split hairs with calibers. I never really paid a ton of attention to, you know, what bow I was shooting. And I always felt, look, if I put the arrow where it needs to go, everything's going to work out. And most of the time that's true, right? But when we started working together, we spent a lot of time on like arrow build and a host of other things that obviously make a difference once you start to stretch your range. And hey, look, I'm not trying to bash anyone, but the level of detail and insight that you have just on arrow build was never anything that I experienced at any of the shops that I had ever gone to. And it has really worked out well. And I would have to maybe assume a little bit that some of that comes from your experience shooting competitively.
Oh, 100%. I mean, so a guy walks into an archery shop to go whitetail hunting here in Western Pennsylvania. You know, the expectation is when I leave the archery shop or when I, you know, practice a little bit, 5 out of 6 times I can hit, you know, a 7-inch circle. I mean, that's what kind of like the standard is, or, you know, a paper plate, you know, at 20 yards or 25 yards. Okay. We can do that. And we can do that fairly easily just by you looking at a spine chart and cutting your arrows to length and, you know, getting it so you shoot a bullet hole through paper, and we can kind of get you there. And okay, great. But let's say, you know, for some reason that, you know, you want to shoot 50 yards. Well, let's say you want to shoot 100 yards. Well, we got to take it to the next level. And then, you know, everything starts becoming a factor, because any like little deviation that you might see at 20 yards, you know, times that by 5 for 100. I mean, that's, you know, what, a 2-inch deviation at 20 yards, that, you know, you're off the paper at 100. You know, you wounded an animal. You're, you know, not saying that we're going to do that, but yeah, you know, that's kind of the idea. You know, if we really want to have confidence in our equipment to make longer shots, especially at something that's not a target, you know, an animal moves, you know, even if it doesn't hear the string go off, it's going to take some steps.
Yeah,
maybe. So we want to be as accurate as we can, and not only accurate, but we also want to anticipate the animal's reaction and make our accuracy adjusted, or our shot placement adjusted to what we anticipate the animal to do. And if we can rule out the fact that, like, I hope my arrow's good enough, or I hope my equipment's good enough, or I hope I'm accurate enough to do this, if we could just say, this is my shot, and if the animal cooperates, everything will go great. Because everything, like here, back, I can control. Everything that's in my hands, I can control. And if I can have confidence in that, where I don't have to, that's not a stressor during my shot. That's not something like, oh, is this a little bit too far or whatever. We already know what our capabilities are. We know our gear's squared away. Now it's up to the animal to react the way we anticipate them to react, and then we can hopefully have a clean kill and an easy harvest. So would say that even at 20 yards, I'd like to be crazy dialed in. So I don't want to have to shoot 2 arrows at the same target because I don't want to ruin arrows. But if I can do that same thing and back it up to 50 yards, why not?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, it's huge for your confidence.
Right. I won't shoot a whitetail that far away, but I know that if I had to, I could, and it certainly makes 30 yards or 25 or 20 yards even easier.
The perceived distance is, I've seen a lot of folks simply say, look, I'm going to shoot regularly at a distance that's twice as far as what I'm going to hunt. Just like you kind of said, I'm going to shoot twice as many arrows as I would in competition. And, you do see folks stretching it out to 100 plus yards. And I mean, I can't, for me, that's I'm not going to be shooting an animal that far away.
Right. I think at that point, ethics get in the way.
Yeah. But if you are shooting, and I mean, I certainly have lost plenty of arrows to prove it, that at 50 to 70 yards, that 25-yard shot, it almost feels like you're like on top of the target. And again, it's the confidence. You're like, wow, this just do what I should do, and I'm gonna hit a golf ball. And that's what I always kind of think about, because that's the only real use of a golf ball. As a target.
That's true. Couldn't agree with you more.
So look, we are closing in on last light here at the Den. This is a time when I just kind of put it out to our guests to say, is there anything that you would like to promote, add, any final words of encouragement?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to follow me on like Instagram or Facebook, Instagram like Major Trainwreck, or Facebook, it's Burkett Erik. Last name first on that one, but reach out. I'm not the end all be all to archery, but I'm working. I'm working on coaching and knowledge and actual also performing. So
are you saying you're doing private lessons?
Yeah, I never said I wasn't.
Okay, yeah, all right. So maybe you need to give your contact information one more time.
So, excuse me, Major Trainwreck. It's MAJ Trainwreck. That's on Instagram, and then Facebook is Burkett. That's my last name, Erik. Burkett Erik.
We'll get that posted up.
Okay,
too, for sure.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be coaching. It just if you have a question or need a recommendation on something like that, as far as equipment, I feel I'm very blessed. Just how things have kind of evolved since I got into more of the target style archery. I've got great equipment from great companies. Not just the equipment themselves, but the people behind the equipment is also very solid, and which keeps me coming back. I don't have any issue. I don't have any desire to shoot other gear from other companies, but at the same time, if you want to shoot something else, America, do it. I don't think there's room for judging. I mean, it's like as silly as debating who drives a better truck. Ford or Chevy. Just if it works for you, then let's.
You've certainly helped me with gear, so maybe it's I would say it's worth it that you mention, and I can see obviously from your hat and your shirt there, but really, I mean,
this is actually my lucky hat too, by the way.
Okay, and I mean, True Ball has helped me out tremendously, with the custom site that you helped design. So yeah, mention some of the folks that you're using.
Well, you just said True Ball Excel. I use their site, their release, their stabilizer, and what else? And the scope. I use all their products. And I've never had issue. I've never had any reason to doubt or question. Customer service is great. I'm actually been with them so long that I'm friends with the vice president there, Ben Summers, awesome guy. He's promoting archery in England right now.
Nice.
But clear targets, That's the lens. It's a glass company that I use. The guy, Dr. Ferguson, is an optometrist, and you talk about making lenses to help you see things better. I mean, he's a doctor of optometry. Come on,
Right.
doesn't get better. Plus his lenses are guaranteed to have a geometric center and an optic center, the same thing. So I can take one lens out and drop another one in, and I don't have to worry about, my arrows are going to hit different. All right. Because the center is the center is the center. So that's great. Hoyt, I've been a Hoyt guy since 2005, and I've never looked back. They support USA Archery quite a bit, and they also support veterans, which I love. And it's a big put your money where your mouth is support from Hoyt there. My arrows, man, I love Black Eagle. I switched to Black Eagle a couple years ago, and just the consistency between shafts. I build all my own stuff, so I'm trying to make them match as close as they can, and it's easy. It's easy with Black Eagle. Throw some Q2I vanes on the back of that to stabilize it out, and depending on what I'm doing with the arrow, I can change the vane to match. I shoot a biter knock. It's the best knock. They have one machine that makes the knock, so all the knocks are identical completely. There's no big batch or anything like that. It's uniform from every single doggone knock. It's unbelievable. I don't know how they do it, but that machine must just be running nonstop. Seriously, it's a mind boggler. I also shoot, the points I shoot are from Sure Shot. They're tungsten points there. Great point, great consistency, adjustable, they're break-offs. And I haven't had any issue with those as well. Plus, the price point for them is unbelievable compared to some of the other companies out there making tungsten points. And the reason I use tungsten is to play with my front and center. I can use a little bit lighter of a point, but still keep my front and center forward in the percentages that I'm looking for. Oh, what else do I got on my bow? Oh, my strings. Doggone Joey's bowstrings over here, and
Right.
Just outside of Akron, Canfield area. You talk about a guy that knows bows inside and out, or bowstrings inside and out. Not only is he's a tremendous archer himself, but just having a few conversations with him on the phone, I had no idea just how much of a factor your string and how it's made and what it's made out of that plays a part in how your arrows perform, how your bow performs. So terrific. And then Hamsky, the peep that I use, the peeps that I use depending on target or hunting setups, and also the rest, the arrow rest. Man, come on, it doesn't get better. Very consistent. Never had mechanical issue with it. Great arrow flight, easy to adjust. I don't know. I'm probably forgetting somebody. Oh, like Last Chance Archery with all their bow tuning stuff. You've been in my basement, the bow laboratory. All that equipment down there is from them. I mean, bow press, arrow jigs, and everything. It's all Last Chance Archery. And then I've got, like you've been a supporter of mine. The gym I work out, Grossetti Performance. Just lots of love. The Gary Sinise Foundation, Semper Fi Fund. Those are two great nonprofits if you're looking for making a financial donation towards the end of the year to change tax brackets or whatever. And two great organizations that their money is going right back out the door. Nothing this craziness, but it's all 90 plus cents of every dollar goes right back out the door. At any given time, you can find out what they're doing with their money. It's great. I don't know. There's probably plenty more. Look on my Instagram, on my post, you'll see a list of all the hashtags and that kind of thing. If there is a sponsor out there that I'm forgetting, please forgive me.
We can post it back in.
I should have had a list or something, but I wasn't thinking that far ahead.
Right.
But I'll go back to the fact that I shoot great equipment. I'm blessed that way. because there are some awesome people out there that have been in my life for a while, and it's come naturally. The support. Now that's not saying you can't go out there and you can't write letters to companies and say, hey, look, this is who I am and what I'm doing. Are you interested in supporting me? Yeah, that you could do that too. This is more. These are the people that I want to be with. This is the equipment that I want to shoot, and it just so happens that it's the same companies that are taking care of me. Yeah.
Well, everyone that's listening and paying attention, you just got like the gold medal tip of everything you need to like get set up to take a run at it.
Yeah. Hey, if you seriously out there, if you are thinking like, you want to do this, I'll tell you, if you want me to coach you, I will give you what I got. And I mean it. I remember a good friend of mine, Andrew Pike, we're in Mexico, it's called the Mexican Grand Prix. It's in Monterrey. And we were on fire. We actually, 3 crippled guys. He shoots from a wheelchair. I shoot from a wheelchair. And another guy, Keith Sikora, who's braced up. We beat the able-bodied Mexican team. We were on fire. But Andrew and I went to the gold medal match against each other. And Andrew beat me. And he said, first thing you want to do is come over, give me a hug. Because I mean, it was a good victory. He kept his mind right way better than I did in that event. But I said to him, Andrew, I'll celebrate, but you got to give me a minute to go lick my wounds. Because it's tough. I mean, I was happy for him. He's a friend of mine. He still is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I hate to lose. But there's a certain level of validation. It's like, hey, I've worked with this guy and helped him get to the point to where he's able to beat me. And, again, Doug Godfrey, there's a bunch of Scotty Hastings. I mean, just guys that are out there doing great things with a bow that, that I've worked with, and they've gone on to beat me. It sucks and it's terrific at the same time.
Yeah, that's cool. It's good. Great. What a great experience, though. I mean, well, hey, you got a lot of information here. You know how to reach him. And the last thing that we would ask is, hey, like us, follow us, subscribe to the Financial Outfitter podcast through thefinancialoutfitter.com. And remember that when you do that, you're becoming a member of the pack, not the herd.
Our mission is to promote new connections in the sporting community by bringing awareness to opportunities and issues that impact our lifestyle, challenge members to think critically about their role in the modern world, and help others to turn dreams into cherished memories. This episode is sponsored by BPG Planning, purpose-based personal financial planning, because it's about more than your money.